What should we be sharing about when we guest on other podcasts? Is it a call to action to DM? Is it a call to action to come listen to my podcast? Is it a freebie or is it a direct call to action to the offer that I have?
If you are playing a numbers game, I mean, it depends. If you might be all about social media. I always tell people get them on your email list. I'm a die by your email list kind of girl.
How do you set up a private podcast? Because I've seen them a lot more. I've seen them a lot more now. Like a lot of people are doing private podcasts.
So there's loads of ways to do it. The way that I do it in my business is I use...
So welcome back. And I've got a guest here. Her name is Natalie Koussa, and she is a podcast tour strategist. She helps her clients become the only choice in their industry by going on a podcast tour. So listen up if you want to be known for what you do and the only choice in people's minds, because she's going to teach you how to go on a podcast tour. She's the creator of the Speakeasy, which is a group program that helps online entrepreneurs grow their business by speaking on other podcasts. And her clients, she's from the UK, her clients have been featured in the BBC Women's Hour and in The Guardian, which from what I hear is a big publication. Yeah?
It is. It's like the equivalent of the NYT, I suppose, in the UK. Yeah.
All right. So thank you for being back here, Natalie. And well, we've had quite a ride with the first episode, haven't we?
We have. I don't think anyone would have guessed where it went, but yeah, it's fun.
And that's just the point, though, right? Like, we're just chatting, we're just getting to know each other, and nobody would guess where the conversation would go if we're sitting down for, well, would it be a coffee or tea over in the Republic of Ireland where you're at?
Oh, tea. For Irish people, tea, but for me, coffee.
Okay.
How about you?
It would have been coffee for me, but I haven't had coffee since last September. Just caffeine and milk and that combination just stopped agreeing with me. Hashtag getting older. Gracefully. So we ended the last episode, with me asking, how do you guest on so many podcasts? You're getting plenty of client referrals and referrals to your program. And one specific question first was, is it that you have thick skin and you're just doing lots of pitches? How do you handle rejection? Please talk about this with me and the listener.
Yeah, sure. So, of course, there's some rejection. Of course, there is. But I don't tend to just send hundreds of pitches to hosts that I don't know. I do cold pitch, but I do it in a way where they can tell that I've really taken the time to get to know them, their listeners, their podcast. So even if it's a no or a not now, I tend to get a response. Most people will at least say, hey, thanks so much for your pitch. It's not a great fit right now because XYZ. Good luck, or whatever, or get back in touch in a couple of months for the next season. So I don't tend to get ignored or angry responses back or anything like that, because people can really tell that I've done the work for them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for the listener, right now, you've made a bold statement, and that statement was that going on a podcast tour is a great bet in 2024. I'm just going to change that and say, going on a podcast tour, if you want to make more money in your business, is probably where you should be spending your time, like what you should be spending your time doing in 2024. Why, though?
We're seeing buyer behaviors change at the minute, aren't we? Like, buyers are being more discerning, and I think that is a really good thing. So we saw this kind of height in the pandemic of everyone was just at home. They were bored. They wanted to invest in learning something new or starting a business or, whatever it is that they were doing. So especially course sales went through the roof really easily, didn't they? And now we're seeing a drop back down to people have lives outside the house again. There's cost of living concerns, there's all of that kind of stuff going on. But also the industry as a whole is maturing and getting older. So our clients are becoming more discerning. And the reason that I think is a really good thing is that if somebody is buying with you today, the chances are they trust you and they've taken the time to get to know you and they've taken the time to prioritize whether the thing you can help them with is something that's actually going to benefit their life. And speaking on podcasts is an amazing way to get in front of those kinds of buyers, because they listen to you for like 30 minutes, an hour, before they join your email list or they DM you on Instagram and say, loved what you were sharing. What's the next step? And my experience in my own business and what I've seen in clients' business is that the kind of buyers that you call in from speaking on podcasts, because of that transfer of trust that happens between the host and you know, the host has been building this community for years sometimes before you speak there. That kind of transfer of trust leads to amazing client relationships and calling in the kinds of clients that get incredible results from working with you. So then it's this like beautiful like spiral. Then they refer other people to you. So it's just this brilliant way of creating demand by literally showing up, being yourself, sharing everything you've got to share, and calling in incredible people and incredible clients on the back of it.
Okay. It makes 100% sense to me. One thing that is confusing to me, though, like straight up, when I guest on other podcasts, and I'm sure like the listener would want to know too, if you wish that I could just hop into your Facebook ad manager and run your ads for you, or at least download all my 3+ years of experience into your ads so that they would run the right way, you pretty much got your wish. There's a new offer that I made, and my clients so far are loving it. It's called Facebook Ads to Success, and that means for you, I can coach you one-on-one so that you can successfully run your lead generation ad campaigns, your launch registration ad campaigns, even your sales funnel, SLO, self-liquidating offer funnel ad campaign. Here's how it will work. We will have 3 calls within 30 days. During that first call, I'm going to show you the exact ways to get your account running optimally. We'll do also like analytics setup if you don't have those set up right so that your ads can function the right way. We'll also look at your funnel and I'll point out to you the areas in your funnel that could be converting better. And I'll make recommendations about how to improve those areas of your funnel. And then if you have running ads currently, we'll look at those ads. Otherwise, we'll go through all the things you need to consider before setting up your ads. In between the calls, you get unlimited access to me. That means on Slack or Voxer or even Messenger, you get to record your screen or just send me an audio messages or type something, but ask about your ads and I'll be able to give you recommendations right there. And then we'll set up the ads and then I'll show you how I check up on ads and all the moves that I would make. I'll walk you through those and teach you how to make those same moves so that you can successfully manage your own ads with confidence. Head to the link that you can see right on the screen to book your spot for Facebook ads one-on-one coaching with me. All right, back to the video. What should we be sharing about when we guest on other podcasts? Because, at the end, the host will say, okay, how can somebody find out more about you? And we're just like, well, I would love for them to come and work with me in my program, but is it a call to action to DM? Is it a call to action to come listen to my podcast? Is it a freebie or is it a direct call to action to the offer that I have? Like, what's the better one to do as a guest?
Any of those can work really well. I've seen all of those work really well. I think the thing to think about is your business and your strategy for your business. So if you work with a handful of really high-end clients, I'm thinking of one of my clients who, to work with her is multi tens of thousands of dollars. So she only works with a handful of clients in that way every year. The thing that works best for her is asking people to DM her or send her an email. Because she only needs a few listeners to come in, and they tend to be the kind of people that then go on to hire her. If you are playing a numbers game, it depends. If you might be all about social media. I always tell people get them on your email list. I'm a die by your email list kind of girl. The kind of like freebies that I'm seeing work really well at the end of episodes at the moment are audio freebies. So like you'll hear, I've got a private podcast that I'm going to share with you and invite you to download. The reason that works so well is because if people have already heard you, they love your voice, they love that style of taking in information and getting to know you, then obviously it's just more of the same. So that works really well. And another thing that's working really well at the moment is if you've got a micro offer, so something, $9, $27, maybe you typically run ads to it. If you want to use that in podcast guesting, give the host a code or share a code with the listeners and give it to them for free as a thank you for joining from that podcast. And bonus points if you set up a landing page that literally says, hey, you found me here, here's your free gift, and invite them onto your email list in that way. And then finally, don't worry if you've not got like an amazing freebie. I have seen just inviting people to join the wait list for your program or your email list directly work really, really well, because you can use the interview as a freebie. By the time people have got to know you that well, they're like, yeah, I'm all in. Send me the emails. Let me know the next steps. Give me more of this good stuff.
The interview is the freebie. So then offering them just a lead magnet to get on your email list it's kind of like the default, the way to go.
It's kind of what we've seen, right? But you don't have to when you're podcast guesting. You can totally just say to people, come over, meet me on my email list, hear more about XYZ, link it to what you've been talking about in the interview, and you're good to go.
Okay. Speaking of email lists and things to link to what you've been talking about in the interview, this interview is nowhere near over, but you wrote down this thing called Pot Damn, is how I'm going to say it. But how do you say it? And what is it about? A free private podcast to help you turn your message into a movement.
Yeah, it's called Pod Damn. And yeah, it's a private podcast, 3 episodes, to help you understand the unique ways that podcast guesting can grow your business. It'll help you get booked on bigger podcasts, and it will help you sell more from your interviews without being salesy. It's totally free. It's at nataliekoussa.com/visible.
By the way, your last name is spelled Koussa, so nataliekoussa.com/visible. Now, I'm asking for a friend. I'm asking for the listener, not for me, just for the listener. But how do you set up a private podcast? Because the listener always wants to know. I already know. Because I've seen them a lot more. I see them a lot more now. Like a lot of people are doing private podcasts.
So there's loads of ways to do it. The way that I do it in my business is I use Hello Audio, which is just a software. It's really, really easy to use. You create the episodes, upload them directly in, and then Hello Audio manages everything for you. So they'll give you a code to sign up. People can give you their email list, and then they get an email with a QR code to then listen to the private podcast. They're brilliant. I use them as a freebie. I also use them as audio, or used to as audio for my course. It's really good. Hello Audio, it's called.
But basically, a private podcast is just pre-recorded episodes. And do you drip them out, or are they all accessible once somebody signs up?
You can drip them. Mine's all accessible, straight up. But yeah, you can drip them as well if you want to.
Okay, cool. I'm going to have to look at that. Not that I'm going to do it, but, to share with the listener who might want to do something like that. So talk about, please, if you would, this idea of creating a plentiful flow of high caliber clients. Like, could you, from a podcast tour, without being salesy, can you connect the dots on how, like, okay, I get that you show up as a guest and the trust that the host's audience kind of is transferred to you because the host is trusting you to be on the podcast. But like in your business, how do you go from there to, I guess, leading somebody down the customer path so that they're realizing you can help them in your program, the speakeasy, or that your program's not for them? But how do you do that?
Yeah, so there's tons of ways. One way that I really like to help people think about it if they're kind of newer to thinking about podcast tours is think about every time that you guest on a podcast, that episode has 3 main sections, and you want to just be ready for each of those sections. So the first section is where the host says, hey, tell people who you are, why you do what you do, all of that. And what we tend to hear so often is, especially kind of in the online business space, people say something like, oh, I worked in corporate and I got burnt out, so I started my business. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But what you want to do is, it's basically like a hook to tell the listener, like the listener's thinking, do I want to spend half an hour with this person? So you want something super memorable, super specific. And one way of creating that is thinking about what's the moment that you knew you were starting your business. Or what's the moment that you thought, I can't do this anymore, I'm doing something different? Or the moment that you were called to do the thing that you do now? Start there. Land the listener right in the middle. Don't worry about all the stuff that happened before. Just land them right in the middle of what you're doing. So that's what that's going to do, is that's going to help the listener like actually listen to the episode. They're going to be totally invested in what you're saying. They're going to be listening. They're going to be like really getting to know you instead of just listening to like the how to, you know? And then when you think about the middle of the episode, yeah, go on.
No, I like that. Keep going. What's the moment I knew I wanted to do what I'm doing now? That's the key that you share in the beginning.
And it'll tell so much about your personality. Yeah, yeah. Like for mine, we didn't get to this, but one of my moments is putting the key in the lock of my brand new apartment that I'd bought by myself, newly single, opening that front door and thinking, I always, always just want a thing of my own. And it started as a place to live of my own, and it's now a business of my own and like a way of making my own money and not relying on anyone else. So for me, that's that. And then the middle of the episode is the bit that people typically think about, right? It's like where you have the conversation, it's where you share all the good stuff. And a really simple way of like really setting yourself up for success there is thinking of one signature speaker topic. So one topic that you can easily talk about for half an hour, whatever the host throws at you, whatever questions come your way. You've seen it all before, right? You've seen it with your clients, you've got stories from your business, all of that. You just need one signature speaker topic. And then every time you pitch or speak on a podcast, you want to think of a slightly different angle to that speaker topic. And that's where you don't just have repetitive 3 ways to do XYZ kind of conversations. You can have a couple of those, there's nothing wrong with them. But you want to be able to really help people be invested in your message. That's how you turn your message into a movement. And one of the ways to do that is by talking about your message in a slightly different way. So it's all coherent. You get known for your thing, but it's not just, oh yeah, that's her again. I've heard her talking about this in exactly the same way.
Oh my
So that's one
gosh.
of the things. And then
This is
yeah.
good. Thank you.
And then the end of the episode have a really like juicy invitation for people. I call it the welcome drink. Like, you know, when you arrive somewhere and somebody's there to meet you and they're like, what would you like to drink? We have like all these lovely bougie options. Can I take your coat? Make yourself at home. You know, you just feel so welcome and so kind of, you know that the night's just beginning. That's what your invitation to listeners should feel like at the end of the episode. Something they're like, yeah. What was that again? You've got a weird surname. How do I spell it? Okay, Koussa, let's go. And they want what it is that you're offering.
This is the clearest framework for being on a guest or for being a guest on another podcast that I have ever heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's years of like working it out, right? Seeing what works, what doesn't, how to explain it in a way that like is really memorable. So people are like, yeah, it's cool. I just need to do these 3 things.
Actually, the moment I knew I wanted to do what I'm doing now, I feel like I might just start asking people that question at the beginning of my podcast episodes. It's yeah, I might have to do it like that, but I'm going to remember this and I hope the listener will remember this too.
Thank you. Well, if it helps people as well, like it's kind of, it's just a like real go-to of a way of like really helping listeners just connect with you easily.
Okay. All right. And so what is the next step? Again, I know you already shared your free private podcast, but somebody who's listening right now, the listener, and maybe me, if like we want to be guests on more podcasts so we can turn our message into a movement, do we DM you? Do we just go and get the Poddam free private podcast? Where do we go?
Yeah, so for me, come over to Poddam, so that's the /visible on my website that we were talking about. And yeah, so I have a group program, the Speakeasy, and I've also just started, like literally last week. This is May when we're talking on this podcast. It's the first time I've ever said this on a podcast, but I've just started a done for you service as well, where if you want me to, I will do the whole shebang for your podcast tour, all the positioning, all the strategy, all the pitching, all the booking, all the supporting you to show up as a brilliant speaker. Yeah, so that's a brand new way to work with me as well.
I mean, especially for someone like me who just gets caught up in, like, am I writing the right thing? Am I doing, like, the right pitch? Is my subject line good enough to get past the gatekeeper and get opened and sent to so and so? And oh my gosh, and then, I just take way too long to write an email that doesn't get a response anyway. Sad tears. Natalie, you can do this. You can do it for me, for the listener. Okay. What's the link for that? Did you say what the link for that done for you service was?
It's not even on my website yet. But if you're interested, you can send me an email. We can put that in the show notes, or just DM me on Instagram is probably the easiest. I'm just Natalie Koussa on Instagram. We can chat.